Do you have one more pin on you? Hey, dude.
Hi.
How long you been here?
About like a week and a half. Thank you.
You have time?
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to get here a little bit.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome. Thank you to my colleagues that are joining with us today, Chairwoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez, Chairman Mike Thompson, and Chairwoman Debbie Dingell. Your presence here today is a very, very powerful statement that we will not stop fighting to save lives and to protect those that we are elected to serve. June is Gun Violence Prevention and Awareness Month, a time when we highlight the epidemic of gun violence tearing through our communities. Many of you know why I came to Congress. My son Jordan was taken from me in a senseless act of gun violence, and that loss drives me every single day that I'm here. Preventing other families from feeling that pain is the core essence of my work. For so many of us here today, there is no more urgent intersection to address than that of firearms and domestic violence. Every day, survivors of domestic violence are navigating a very terrifying reality. They are calculating risks and trying to keep themselves and oftentimes their children safe. Too often, the most dangerous moment in an abusive situation is when a victim tries to leave her abuser. When an abuser actually reaches for a gun. The majority of intimate partner homicides involve a firearm. I know that's not a statistic that many of you will let continue, and it is why I'm proud to be the lead sponsor of the Federal Extreme Risk Protection Order Act. Simply put, red flag laws. And red flag laws actually save lives. They empower loved ones. They give law enforcement the tools to intervene before the tragedies strike. The Federal Extreme Risk Protection Order Act would actually give families and law enforcement the ability to petition a court upholding due process to temporarily remove firearms from someone showing signs of being in crisis or dangerous behavior. It is a common sense, court-supervised, due process protected tool that bridges the gap when existing law falls short. The Trump administration has moved to weaken federal protections and keep guns out of the hands of convicted domestic abusers. That is reckless. That is dangerous. And it runs directly counter to what our survivors need. We should be strengthening the safety net around victims of domestic violence, not tearing it down. During Gun Violence Prevention and Awareness Month, we are calling on our Republican colleagues to bring this bill to the floor for a vote. The American people deserve better. They've been crying out for gun safety. They've been crying out for public safety. Survivors deserve better, and families in pain deserve to see that Congress is fighting for them. I again want to thank the Democratic Women's Caucus, the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, and the Bipartisan Working Group to End Domestic Violence, and all the advocates with us here today for always being a part of this fight, because we have never forgotten, we will never forget, and together we will make these life-saving tools available to everyone in this country and take steps to support our survivors, no matter their zip code. Together we will protect the American people because it's what they deserve. And at this time, it is my honor to introduce to you Representative Teresa Ledger Fernandez of New Mexico. She is the chair of the Democratic Women's Caucus.
Muchísimas gracias por tenerme acá con ustedes para hablar sobre la violencia contra las mujeres, contra las parejas domésticas. And Congresswoman McBath, you said we will never forget. And we will never forget, because that is what we owe to you and to every victim of domestic violence who is not allowed to forget, because they carry that pain. Every victim of family violence, of gun violence, because that pain will never ever go away. And I thank you for being willing to lead on this effort and stand up for all of us and lead the way. So every month more than 70 women are shot and killed by an intimate partner. Nearly 6 million women reported having a gun used on them by an intimate partner. And those who survive this trauma are left with deep physical and emotional scars, and too often a misplaced sense of shame. And it happens in every kind of household, in every corner of our beautiful state. I had somebody who was incredibly close to me, a member of my family. In front of one of her children, her ex took out a gun and fired it in her direction. She walked away because it was meant as a warning shot to tell her she could not leave. She ended up walking away from that home. She walked away. She never received any part of her value in that home. She never received child support. And those of us who didn't know the story kept telling her, why are you doing that? You know, the bum deserves to pay to keep up his children. And finally she broke down and she told us the story. And she said, I will not raise a single issue because I would rather be alive to be able to rebuild my life with my children than dead in the house that we had together. And I think that that has always stayed with me, and looking at how she then rebuilt her life. But not everybody can rebuild their lives because they are so destroyed by the gun violence. Tamara Hopkins spent 5 years in a physically abusive relationship, which ended after her boyfriend shot her 5 times in the face, back, and chest. She lost her hearing in one ear and is unable to use half her face. She was afraid to report the violence, too ashamed to ask for help, an automatic response that had developed when she was just 16 years old. So these are just one of the 2 stories that we know are regenerated every day in America. And so that's why we are calling on the Republican leadership of the House to bring this bipartisan legislation to the floor, because it could pass. It could pass. In New Mexico, we are seeing full-page ads right now in our newspapers. We're seeing the pop-up ads urging people to help the people they love give up their guns, have protective orders. I mean, there are small steps that we can make everywhere, but we need to make sure that the incubator that's working in some of the states is available to every household, to every woman across every corner of our state. And that's why I am proud, and the DWC is proud to endorse key legislation like this one. Both Representative McCart's Assault Weapons Ban Act and Representative Dingell's Strengthen Protections for Survivors of Domestic Violence, Stalking, and Dating Violence Act. Let's start protecting everybody in our communities. And with that, I would like to recognize another champion on this issue, the chair of the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, Representative Mike Thompson from California's 4th District.
Thank you very much. I'm proud to be with these 3 champions of gun violence prevention. And I just want to say, I'm here because this is important legislation that will save lives. But Lucy, I'm also here because of Jordan. We're here because of Jordan, we all are, and we're here because of you and your incredible strength that you've shown from the day you decided to run for office to make our community safer to today and tomorrow and the day after that. You have been a fearless and a nonstop champion for gun violence prevention. And make no mistake about it, intimate partner violence and gun violence have close ties. A woman is killed by her partner every 12 hours. Abusers with guns are 5 times more likely to kill their partner. And we have tools that will stop this. And red flag laws are on the top of that toolbox. They work. Think about it. The Parkland shooter had a known history of violence. Matter of fact, he said he planned to be a professional school shooter. Florida had no red flag laws to stop him. Every day, risks are stopped because of red flag laws. A good example, San Diego, California, in my home state, a man going through a bad divorce threatened his wife. He said he was going to kill her. Red flag laws were used and they stopped that from happening. We need to pass red flag laws to keep everybody safe in our community. We also need to pass universal background checks, the first line of defense to identify people who shouldn't be able to come anywhere close to a gun because they're a danger to themselves or to others. And background checks are fast, they're constitutional, and they're popular. 93% of Americans support universal background checks. There is nothing that is that popular. The only place it's political is right here in this building behind us. We could pass those 2 laws and we could protect a lot of people. So I'm proud to be here today to say, Republican colleagues, bring the red flag bill up for a vote. It will pass. It is important and it is popular with your constituents just like it's popular with my constituents. And now it's my honor to introduce the co-chair of the bipartisan working group to end domestic violence, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell from Michigan.
So good morning, everybody. I can't tell you how proud I am to stand here with all 3 of my friends who I work very closely with on this and other issues. Mike so eloquently said it. Lucy came here to fight gun violence, remember her son. Teresa is just incredible. And Mike Thompson is a gun owner who believes in responsible gun ownership. Everybody else has given you the statistics, so I'm going to talk to you from my heart right now. By the way, my husband was a responsible gun owner. So I lived in a home with someone who was a responsible gun owner, taught his children, and it wasn't a danger. But I want to talk about the house I grew up in, where my father should not have had access to guns. And the day that my mother and father were each pointing a gun at each other, and I got in the middle of them and screamed and tried to grab one of the guns, and that scarred me. But I also remember the nights when something would snap in my father and the guns would be out and we would be hiding in the closet praying to God, please let me live tonight. Please don't let my brothers and sisters die. And while it wasn't that long ago, when you called the police, it does happen, as Tracy said, in every kind of household. I'd call the police and say, I'm scared, my father's trying to kill us. And they wouldn't respond because he was the man that lived on the hill. He would take the handles off all the doors in the house. Nobody could get in, nobody could get out. My mother ran out because she was scared for her life and left the kids there thinking we were gonna die. Nobody, no child should have to live in that kind of situation. And parents don't leave, mothers don't leave, fathers don't leave because they're scared, they're worried about financial dependence. They do not know the scars that it leaves on children and on families. For years, married to a responsible gun owner, Mike was his good friend, I would say, what can we do? You should have a gun, but my father shouldn't go near one. And you have to think it through. In those days, nobody even, you talked about red, I'm not that old, okay? I'm seasoned. Red flags have only come about. I would talk to police chiefs and say, what do you do? And the red flag laws have come into being. I have a bill that's now, it's not my bill, but the concept of it sitting at the Supreme Court. So that when somebody has been convicted, due process is there of domestic violence with a gun, they should have access to a gun. As Mike Thompson said, it's 5 times more likely there will be violence when there is a gun in the situation. Red flags is something that works. I've talked to so many police chiefs, I can't tell you how many nights I've sat with a woman that's been battered, or quite frankly, been with the children of somebody that got killed, that even had orders that didn't get served in time, and they were killed. So Lucy's bill is a way that if somebody knows that somebody's a threat, you can tell law enforcement and try to keep the situation safe. I don't want any child to live with what I grew up in. I don't want anybody to have those memories. We need to protect families and communities, and that is what Lucy's bill is about, and nobody should be afraid to bring it up and vote for it. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank Representative Dingell for her impassioned plea, and as a survivor of domestic violence, the stories are what truly matter. The stories make the difference. The stories of those that have been traumatized or hurt or maimed or murdered, that's what makes the difference. And that is the reason why I'm so grateful for those advocates and those champions that are standing here with me, for my colleagues that fight every single day on these issues, because it truly matters. The people that we're losing, they are not numbers, they are not statistics, they are real life human beings having traumatic, devastating experiences. And as I said when I came to Washington, I am going to be that nasty little fly, and my colleagues as well. We will continue to fly around and we will continue to harass and harangue people until they are willing to do the right thing and make sure that we are representing the interests in public safety for every constituent that sent us here to represent them and to keep them safe. At this time, we are opening for any questions. I'm sure all of my colleagues that are here are willing to answer any questions that you might have. Yes, Tia.
Hi, I just, with Republicans controlling Congress, is there anything
and anyone else that wants to join in with me. What do you do with the public? Absolutely. We're in the minority right now, but that doesn't mean that we are not fighting. We'll continue to bring pieces of legislation forward as discharge petitions because right now we have a body that is unwilling to follow the general rule of law, to follow the general process of passing legislation, follow the laws. This is a very extreme time that we are living in. We are having to resort to things such as discharge petitions to actually force these bills to the floor for a vote. And so what we will continue to do, as we've been doing on other policies as well, I will be bringing my bill back to the floor again. We've had, hundreds of members that have signed already, but we want to make sure that we're integrating the newer members. We want to make sure that we're integrating individuals before who maybe determined that they didn't want to sign on or they weren't really sure. We'll continue to use those other tools to make sure that we're keeping this gun violence prevention as a national policy agenda that is not going to be pushed aside. We know what is happening in the country. We know that we're in a crisis. We know that affordability is the crisis, health care, access. We know what is happening in the United States of America. But every single day, people continue to die unnecessarily. Every single day we have a tragedy. Every single day there is everyday gun violence that happens. And this body has not forgotten. And this body will continue to champion forward pieces of legislation because it's not only just my bill. It is all the pieces of legislation that my colleagues have put forward comprehensively to make sure that we organically are keeping the public safe. We'll continue to put those pieces forward and use the tools that are made available to us. Any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Good job.